Hello, this is Elizabeth on the Dandy DIYer. Today we are doing a primitive Santa Claus. This will be the first one I've ever done on the channel. So come with me. It's a simplified pattern, just a piece of paper and some scrap fabric, and you are on go. Let's get started making our primitive Santa Claus. I've never done a Santa Claus on the channel, and I think you guys will really enjoy this. As you can see, this is a oval egg shape. Now, the measurements of this oval egg shape are going to be 6¼ inches, and the length of it is 9½ inches. So you can take a piece of paper and just cut you an oval shape. That's really all the pattern there is to it. You'll cut 4 pieces. Now, for this Santa Claus, I have basically picked out 2 different fabrics. This inspiration is coming from, and she is just wonderful. Michelle is her name. She is here on YouTube. It is Crafty Servings is the name of her channel. She does her lives on Facebook, and she basically puts part of that feed up on YouTube, but you'll be able to find it. So you'll have 4 pieces, and of course, you can pick to sew these to where you have a panel on each side, which is what I'm going to do. So I'll sew these together. So the next, I'll have basically the red on each side and then the printed on the adjoining side. I'm just going to stitch up the side here. I'm using number 3 thread. You could use white cotton cord, twine, string, any color, or you could do cross stitch thread. And I have my needles that I use. These come out of the upholstery set. You can get these Hobby Lobby, Walmart, order them online. So easy to find. It is basically your repair needles, and that one's from Hobby Lobby, and it's this particular needle. As you can see, missing out that pack. It's real easy to string this up. Okay, so basically what I do is I, of course, thread my needle. I'm going to put me a knot. I am doing it on the outside, so I'll show you what I do. I'm going to start down here. I always put mine in between the fabric. That's just so that knot is, in between those fabrics, and then it kind of holds it in place so it doesn't slide on me, because I am doing a whip stitch. And what I mean by whip stitch is, first of all, I'll go back through there. That kind of anchors everything into place. And I just go up the side. And when I do that, I do this whip and stitch. So, remember it's primitive, so you don't want it to be perfect. But if you are a perfectionist, it works great. Alright, so a whip and stitch is basically, I just go about 1/4 inch up, bring my cord through, go another 1/4 inch, and most people with any kind of turn needle, it is just like a written signature. You have your own little method and your own little signature, so you have a distance in your mind that just comes natural, flows natural. So your stitches might be closer together, they may be further apart, but I will tell you, because we're going to be putting polyfill in this, about every 1/4 inch is the perfect measure. And as you can see, you can almost lay a measuring tape right there and see that my stitches are pretty much identical from each other. But that's just natural, just like anybody with handwriting or drawing or anything you do. It's just as distinct. You can recognize those needle stitches. So I'm going to finish this up, and basically when you get up to the top, you can put it together. You've just got to leave your opening at the bottom or the top one so that we can put polyfill in there. It will take you a minute to sew that together, and all 4 panels sewn together. Alright, we got it all stitched together, and as you can see, it really has that primitive look to it. This one is more square, boxy, and you're going to stop, right there at that loop area if you do the oval shape like I've shown you, and gather it up, and you'll make a really square, good surface. And this is an unusual shape. I generally do mine really, really more oblong. But on this one, I'm going to go a short, stunky fat. And these stitches are really going to give it that look that we're going for. Now, to go along with this, our Santa needs a hat. You're going to cut 15-inch pieces. You only need 2. And so I just grabbed some of my scraps from out of the sewing room. These are roughly 7 1/4 inches wide. So I'm just making the cap. The thing that we're keeping in mind is basically, you know, I'm looking at the width of the body. Now I've got a head here, and the way I want this to drape over. So you can go by your body's width and bearing the head in mind. So you want at least 1 inch overage on each side for each piece. That will basically give you a 4-inch leniency, because by the time you add all your stuff on it and polyfill and so forth. So we've got his body. We're going to do the hat. And for the head, here's my circle per se, and as you can see, it's not completely round. Just go with it. It's a primitive, and this one's pretty big. This one's probably 9 1/2 or so. So it's 10 in the center, and across the middle it only reached at 8 1/2. So there you go. It's like an oval shape, but it will work because with his head, we're going to be using his head this way. We're not going to be laying it like a ball. We're actually going to be laying it face first, where the gather is in the rear, and the hat will go over this. So we got some more work to do on the face, but just so you get your face made, I just didn't figure you guys needed me on here showing you all that. You guys know, in just a running stitch, I mean, basically I put a knot and I just do a basting stitch all the way around, and then that way I can pull it and gather it up. So when you get your needle pull through, just giving you an example, and then that way when you get all the way around the outer perimeter, you can gather it up and put your polyfill in the center. You know, make your head, and that will create his head and his face. Let's do the Santa hat. Do me an angle from the bottom corner to the upper to find my center point. And I want to make sure I reserve the width down here at the bottom. Get this right. So I'll just draw me a line, and then over here I'm going to lean out some more. And actually, since I did it this way, I don't want these lines to meet. I am preserving. I want this at the top. Let me show you. I want this at the top to be kind of wide, because we got to make a round point to it. So what I am doing is I'm taking my ruler, and I'm just preserving as much of the width as I can to my fabric. And then I'll just draw me a line, because this does not have to be perfect. You can just basically cut you a tree and round off the top. I will just kind of try to round this off and just give it a little bit of a roundness, because it's not going to be perfect, but more of just a cone shape is what we're going for. So you see what I got there. So what I'll do is I'll cut this out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got my cone cut out, and as you know, I didn't turn that one over, so I may have a little bit wider width on one side than the other. But all in all, it looks just as good as it needs to be. And that did pretty good. I'll probably do like a whipping stitch just so they match. But you can actually do a running stitch. You can do these on the machine, but I thought you guys might enjoy it so that anybody can do it. So now we have our beautiful Santa hat stitched up. And I've got all my stitches running around it. And it's looking pretty good. So we're going to place this aside for the time being. We are going to work on that more. Let's bring our face forward. We need to work on it. And I have my beautiful little needle pouch this one I actually thrifted. And I just think it's the good Lord looking after me when I see needle threaders in there. Thank goodness for these things. And as you can see, there's one in here that has a little bit of thread. That might be enough for what I am doing. You want to double it up because we're going to need some strength in this string. So make sure you got 2 pieces running in there whenever you get ready to use this. You want to put a knot in it, but make sure you double up your thread. Now this is what we're going to do on the Santa hat. You have your knot back here where you gathered it up, and you're looking at it, and you can kind of look at the shape of it and tell. But we're going to take and we're going to really make this primitive. So we're going to kind of pinch the center there, and what we're doing is we're going to make his nose. So we want this center area. One side's going to be wide and one will be narrow, or sometimes you make them skinny. This is not rocket science. You just want to kind of pinch that together. And we're going to take our needle and thread and we're going to run it through one side over to the other. This doesn't have to be a fantastic amount pinched, but you do kind of want to stay together. Now, what the trick is here, when you pull this, you're going to go right back through where you just came out. So you are going to have to focus on where you're running that needle back and forth. And like I said, you want to double it because you want that to be strong. So you're going to go right down back beside of it. Now, we've got that good and anchored. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go up just a little bit. And these stitches need to be kind of close together when you're doing them. So you're going to go from one side to the other. When you get it over there, you're going to go right down beside of it in front and focus on pushing it through to the other side close to the same place. So you see what's happening now? It's starting to pinch up and form his nose. So we want to go up just a little bit more. It don't take a whole lot to do this. And the good thing is if you're going through there and you find that you needed to stitch that, you can definitely run the needle to that area. So you're right beside of it, pull it back through and pull it taut, and that's going to give you that gathered up. So we want to try to go up just a little bit more. And keeping it pinched makes a huge difference. Once you get it started, though, like I've got it going here. Now, the tighter you pull it, you know, the narrower it's going to be. So if you want it a little broad, you have to ease up like I have here. And just you're going to go up just a little bit further. And may just stop right there. That may be enough for what I'm doing. And this really gives him personality. And you just see his nose come together. So that may be sufficient for making his face. What do you think? That looks pretty good, doesn't it? So I think I'm going to knot off right here. And that's real easy. I just go in there and just put a few through stitches. And I kind of like bury mine in there. I'll bring it out this side over here and leave the tail of it inside that fabric. You want to try to make sure you come out on the other side where there's already thread. And I take and pull it so that when I snip at, it's going to disappear on the inside. It won't be hanging out here on the outside. That looks good, doesn't it? It looks real good. And if it does get, you know, like you've got it, like I see mine getting a little, I want to make sure that the nose is in the center of my circle here. Now, and you can naturally see where the eyes would fall on this. That's so neat. And of course his mouth and his nose. And we're going to do this up a little bit more. But I have this stocking that I got from Dollar Tree. You may even find some that you can use, but I want to repurpose the pieces on this. So I'm going to use this beard, but you can real easily, like I've already pulled on this, but it's just barely glued. And I'm just going to take that off of this stocking because I want to use it for my Santa. And this was a gnome stocking. So as you can see, it just pulls loose. I mean, I've literally just pulled it loose. And even the nose is coming too. I can take it as well. And I don't care if it's, you know, partial or whatever. It's not going to matter to me. Because here is my beard. And you can kind of see, you know, I can cut it down, but I want it to come down here and come up the side a little bit. And this one right here had a bare spot, but there's really nothing I can do about it. I don't think it'll be apparent when it's on the Santa, because if he's here and put his beard, it's going to hang way down. So you see why I want to cut this down. It's way too long. So when I'm looking and measuring, I know that that beard needs to come up around, up on the cheek areas, and hang down and cascade down the front here. So I can already see I'm going to have to take about half of this out up here. Now what you can do is when you bring this over, you can see how it's running. And you want to cut in this area. So a lot of times a very sharp blade or your X-Acto knife works well for this. And so you can kind of when you go to cut it, make sure I got that tight, you're just cutting the actual fabric. You don't want to cut into the fur if you can help it. And because the fur is just attached to this wall here, is all it is. If you make a mistake on this, it's very forgiving. It is not anything to allow it to upset you, because it truly, you can just use these pieces and you just want it flowing in the right direction. That's why you want to try to get this right on your first go around. And a sharp razor does better than trying to do this with scissors, because then you have fur everywhere and it is a mess. If you can help not having to clean that up, trust me, it will be your friend not to have to clean that fur up. It's like trying to clean up glitter. It's a nightmare. So we've got this part, and I hope I'm kind of accurate on that. So you have just a few pieces. They're easily gotten up, but we still have this intact, so if we need it, we have it. So I'm going to go over here and do this side as well. And that blade is pretty sharp and willing to just keep coming for me. And if you're using scissors, you just want to go, once you cut a hole there, you can just keep cutting it and come on with it and stay underneath the fur. That way you'll have more accurate cut. A lot of this will be hidden, so don't worry if your edges are jagged. Okay, so we've got this piece and we have this extra for something else. See where I want it. So by the time I glue it, and it's running up the side, and then the cap is going to come down. So you kind of see how that's working there. Alright, so that's what we've got so far. Okay, so I went back and I modified the head. You want to leave it a little bit open back here so you can make it as large as you need to. This one that I originally made is much smaller, and I need one that's a lot larger in order to accommodate my body. So make sure it's in proportion. So basically, if you lay the head against the body, you see how tall the body is, here's the head. You can do it smaller. But now I want to tie that on. But before I do, if you're going to grunge yours, now is the time to get out your coffee grunge. And the video on how to make this is on the channel here. I will put a link to it in the description box so you can easily get to it. It's a real easy recipe, and I'll use my chip brush. I want to do that to my outfit and let it dry. Also, some options on the beard. You could use the mop, the dust mop from Dollar Tree. You could also use this for his hat, for the edging, and you could use that for his beard. And I already have my beard, and I've modified it. I made a deeper cut here so that when I go to put it on, it's going to go up. Now the cap's going to cover most of that, so that's all I'm concerned about. And I'm not worried about grunging his beard. I'm worried about doing his face, and I can go back and do his cap. So at this time, I've got his face. I'm going to grunge that. Now my grunge is really dark. It's a super strong amount of coffee. It does have some cinnamon in there, and I just pour me out a little bit in a plate. It just makes it easier. You can get this clogged up from the cinnamon. If it was the straight coffee, I could just spritz it, but it does make it a less mess and a lot more control. And I just go ahead and paint it on. It just takes a second to get that done, and you'll have it grunged up in no time. And you want to do this if you're planning on putting other stuff on it like I am. And as you can see, the chippy brush does a real good job, and you get that natural splash. You don't have to do the back if you don't want to. It won't be seen, but I generally just go ahead and do all of it. I'm one of those people, if I don't, I will miss something. So, and I'll let this dry, and then we'll proceed on. I'll probably do the body of this and do his cap as well while I've got my grunge out. You may not see much of a difference, but it will take down some of that newness. And you could just do the face and not worry about the rest of it. So you just have to make it your own, and that's what DIY is all about. Craft it and just make it your own, and see what you like, what suits you, and be creative with it. And I've almost got the head pretty much all I'm going to do to it, and let it dry. And it doesn't take long for your grunge to dry. If you want to speed that up, you can use your heat gun to speed that process up. Let that go, and let me try it out on this fabric just to see, because a lot of times you can do the grunging on this with a ink pad. I do that, and then you can rub some cinnamon on it. That will also give it that dingy, dusty look. And so since this is the lighter fabric, I can do it just to tone it down, make it look a little more deeper. And then of course the thread. I've advanced the drying process a little bit, so it's mostly dry. Looks like a potato. And that's what I was going to tell you. And then this is mostly dry. Now in looking at this, I am thinking I'm going to attach my head to show this part of the body. I haven't done the beard or dyed yet, and I have done the hat, and as you can see, it has that naturalness. This did not do any deeper. This fabric is pretty much that color, and that's the way it's just working out. So sometimes you find out that. Now, I'm basically going to take my pen again, and I'm going to attach the head, and I stitch mine on. You can use glue, but a lot of times you get more stability if you stitch it. And like I said, this in the back is not going to hurt because it won't show by the time the cap goes on and glue on the beard and all the good stuff. So I'm going to attach this, and we'll be back. Alright, so we got his head sewn on, and you can see how I stitched that. Just tie it on as really best and just anchor it down. You can use some fabric glue, which I'll be using fabric glue, but by the time you put the beard and the hat on, it's going to be pretty stable. And it's pretty stable as it is. Looks like a potato head, but it's looking really, really good. So this is where we can work on our hat and we can put the beard on. Put a little blush on him. Let's see what that would do. Just need a dash and just a little bit in the cheeky areas that'll show through whenever we put the beard on. You don't even have to be exact on that, just a little bit, because the beard, we'd be covering a lot. Put his beard on, make sure it goes, I want it to hit here, right at the bottom of his nose. I think what I'm going to do is I have fabric glue in this glue gun, and it don't take much of it. That'll give me an anchor. So just keep it right where I want it. And then I'm going to actually put it on the beard lining itself. Because with this fabric glue, hot glue, it sinks in and it's just the perfect amount. You don't need very much. You could do this with some fabric tack. It just might take it a little bit longer to dry because it's wet. You just got to be exact when you put this down. And that gets the one side done. That's looking really good. And you can see exactly where his eyes are going to go. And you have options for those. You can paint those or you can use buttons. I usually use buttons, but I do have these googly eyes. And I think these googly eyes might be suitable. I have different sizes in here. And what's great about the googly eyes is you can break the plastic and just take the little black dot out. I have done that numerous times. So I'm debating here. Should we leave his eyes with the googles or just put the spots? So the vote is to leave the googly eyes as is. So we need to bring them out just a tad away from the nose. Because, well, that's more natural. And I'm going to once again use the fabric glue. And it should only use a dab. Just got to make sure it doesn't drip. And I have it on low heat, so because when you're using fabric glue, you have to use low heat, so it dries really fast, like it cools off. So a matter of hitting this one just right. With his odd shape, it's hard to hold him steady. Santa is looking really realistic now. I know it looks glary there, but it looks so normal when he's upright, when he's like he's supposed to be. We can put glasses on him if we want to, so we can do all that detail later, but so far he is looking really handsome. So let's work on the hat. With the hat, we want to put a little bit of polyfill in here, not a whole lot, just a little bit. Okay, so you just want just a little bit of polyfill. Don't go crazy, just enough. And remember, we're going to be putting a brim edging around this fur or the mop head or something to trim that out. But up here I want to put something off of it because I also want to add him a bell. So you could end it right there and just tie a bell to the top of it if you wanted to. But I want to do the trick that I saw Michelle do, and that's she takes the piece and attaches it, but then she pulls the thread down here. So we want to build out what we're going to hang on the end. So I have all of my scrap fabrics from the cut-offs here, and I'm going to put a little bit of a tap in there. We won't need that much, but I do want it to have that torn, tattered look. Make it a little more rustic and primitive. Add some other stuff to this. Need some string and got me some jute twine here. Some cut pieces. I'm going to put me a little bit of burlap ribbon in there. Got to pull the wires out of this. I'm going to put a bell on there. Okay, so I picked me out this gold bell. I think that's going to be suitable. And I'm just going to run my cord through that. Now I've run my string and rethreaded my needle because I'm going to need it. But I've got my bell here. I'm going to tie my bell onto this messy bow, tattered bow. Make sure it's good and snug too. Okay, Now what we're going to do with our bell is right here at the top. Okay, so basically I'm going to take and make sure that I just stitch that onto the tip of my cap. I'm going to go through both pieces of fabric there. And I want it on this front side, so when you stitch it, you might want to make sure that you're pulling it to the side that you want it to be on. So that's where I want mine. So I want it on the front side of this cap, so that when I tilt it over, it stays there. Get coordinated. Alright, got that where I want it. Now I want that tied back on there. You don't have to be particular, you just want to get it attached to that cap. You can even catch some of the string or ribbon, it doesn't matter as long as it stays attached to the front where you're wanting it. Yes. And I think I'm going to run my cord right through the bundle to ensure that it goes exactly where I want it. And this is when it pays off to have a very sharp needle and regular thread versus cord, because I might end up tearing up my bundle trying to get it through all of those. Sure going to give it a good go. Oh, a small miracle. Good Lord looking after me again. So that's staying on the front like I want it. Perfect. I'm going to run back through here and catch these fabrics and tie them down. But you get the idea. There we go. I can leave this until I'm done, but you get the idea. We got the bell tied on. We got our little tattered bow going here. Everything's looking really good. So let's work on the brim of our hat, then we can go further with our cap. Need to put our fur on, so let me show you about this fur. With these mops, if you go in here, you will see this blank area. If you pull the fibers to the side, this is where we want to cut, because we can push this back and cover it. So we want to hit about midways, and then if you look back here, you can see the middle, and that way you don't cut the actual fur of the cap. So let me take the tag off of it. That would be helpful. And you can cut that with an X-Acto knife, or you can take your scissors, whichever is really good and sharp that you can nip it in there. Make sure I pull that away. And you could tape that if you wanted to, if you felt it was going to get in your way, but I don't think it will. And you could almost slide your scissors right up through the middle there. But I want to make sure I pull that. So just like that, got snipped. So this will take me a minute to do. And for this size, you're going to need a whole strip to do the front and the back. You don't have to totally go around the cap, since it's going to be buttoned down in the rear of the Santa. So our primitive Santa is coming together here. Now on the sides, when you get to the sides of this mop head, you will have to clip it. But you can use anything for his beard and his cap. This is just one idea. So when you get here, you're going to have to cut some of that fur. Just pick a lane. You might can keep from having to cut so much of it. Okay, now when you get ready to glue your hat, go halfway. You want to put the center in the front here and start in the center of your front. And then if you're using the dust mop head like I'm using from Dollar Tree, then you want to make sure that you're going right there on those threads. We don't want to glue this part because we'll put something down in the top for his trim, like some branches or greenery and berries and stuff. So we don't want to glue that. We just want to go here on this sewn edge so we have room to do that. And then that fluff will hang over. I'm going to be going right here on my cap. Like I said, this fabric glue happens real fast on that low heat. Get that going, then I can go little by little and go around to the back. Oh, I just love the way that looks. Just gorgeous. Just gorgeous. And when you're using that fabric glue, you want to be careful when you get ready to go around the corner. That way it don't have a sharp point. It rolls with it. And as you can see, it's not going to be like, it's not going to meet, and it don't need to because of what we're going to be gluing that to the back of the Santa. So right here, you want to kind of make sure you keep that round when you get ready to go around the corner. If you don't, it's going to be a sharp bend there, and you don't want that. It'll look goofy. Be hard to make it pliable. We'll roll it. Okay. I'll do this side real quick. Once again, make sure you roll it. Roll it. Yeah, that looks great. Looks so good. Oh my gosh, look how gorgeous it is. I am so pleased. So pleased. Matches his beard. Alright. Now we still have our cord here for our bell. You'll have this edge in here where we can put the greenery. Alright, we still have our string attached where we sew our bell on. Now I'm going to feed it down in between these fabrics. Let me put my hand up there this time. That way I can go ahead and catch it and pull it through. Now we can pull that as taut as we want. So see why you want to go in the front fabric and not the rear, because if you go in the rear fabric, the bell will pull backwards versus forward. You want it to come forward. You can bend it as much as you want or as loose as you like. It's up to you. If you have to, you can put more polyfill up there to stiffen it so that you make sure it stays this way. And you'll anchor it down in the brim of the hat up here once we get it the bend we want. We put it on Santa here. See how much of a bend we want going there. Get his hat to sit there, down in the back. It's a work in progress. By the time you pull his hat down in the rear and get him situated, oh, he is so adorable. Oh my goodness, he's looking so cool, so good. I know it's hard to see on that camera. He is looking gorgeous. Okay, so you can style your hat, make sure you push your polyfill closer to his head, because that's where you need it, and then narrow it out here, or whichever, however you need to get it fixed to style it, and figure out where you want it to hang. I want mine to hang about here on this side area. So now that I've got my back side of my cap, like you want the cap to pull down the back side of the body and then still be up here at his head. So that way you can gauge how far to dangle. And I've just got mine to open up, twist, to push that polyfill up here, and I'll shape it a little better here shortly, but so that you get the idea. Now once you get that to hang down as far over as what you have in mind, you can then take and stitch it down to the cap itself. And then that way it doesn't shift or move or take off. It'll be there. From now on, that'll be its length, how far it goes. Just do a little stitching in there, so no one's going to see that. Alright, so now that's where my hat's going to be, and it's a matter of attaching it to Santa here. Our Primitive Santa. And we can glue that bell, or basically the messy bow, you can glue it up on there once you get all this situated. So once again, I'm going to get that polyfill more over here in the hat. That back, because the very back is going to be to the Santa. Now, once I get this situated, get it where I want it first for him. I know it's going to hit him here. And then the rear, I think I'll go ahead and glue that so that it's not sliding. Some fabric tack would be good if you needed to. If you don't have the hot fabric glue. That'll give me a little more control. Alright, so that we'll get that controlled a little bit. Okay, so as I've gotten his hat situated, I did glue like some of these fabric strips backwards, and then this will be fluffy. So let me just kind of lean him. That's kind of what you're seeing right there, and he is looking great. Now his hat up top is not glued down, so if you'll push your polyfill to the rear here and then leave this kind of empty, and you can twist his hat and style it the way that you like, and then that way his bell will show off. Now he may lean slightly, not a whole lot, but a little bit, but by the time we put some greenery up here, that's going to offset that weight. And you can even take and put some glue back under here, which I'll do that while I'm at it, and that will help keep his head balanced. You could even, glue under the beard down to the body if you needed to offset it, but I don't want to worry about that just yet until I get his greenery put up top. Once I do the greenery in here and glue that down, I'll be able to know if I need to add any fabric glue to offset the weight. And you can always put something in the bottom too. But right now I just want to let that glue cool. And it only takes a second for that fabric glue. When you run your gun on low heat, it's better to use low heat, and then it really dries pretty much on contact. It cools really fast. So you got just a short working time. You want to glue this last under here, like gluing his hat down to his head. Once you're sure that that's how fluffy you want it, if you need to add polyfill or fill this out any back here. And I think I'm going to leave it as it is. I don't think I'm going to have any regrets. So I'm going to go ahead and put fabric glue under there so I can put his hat down for sure. I'm just going to go right there under that edge and make sure his hat stays where I've got it. Okay, now something else that she inspired me to do was some glasses. I have some floral wire here. I'm just going to roll a bunch of it out and see how glasses would look on him. This is definitely not a requirement. I know that the bridge of his nose is about this wide, about as wide as my thumb. So that'll be the little hump there. Okay, and then over here on this side of my index finger, I'm just going to wind it several times just to give it some color. Yes, a few times there. Just try to measure it. So here on this side, once again, I'm going to use my index finger. 1, 2, 3, I think she did 3, and that seems to be the right good number. Get that to look right. And the floral wire is real bendy. It's very thin, small, and narrow. So any of your floral wire, you could do gold, green, silver, black, red, and I thought, okay, this is the closest I have it's going to work. So, the bridge of the nose has got to come forward where the circles have got to be backward. Let me see if I can get my glasses made just right. Don't know that he needs them. I mean, what do you think? Go with or without the glasses? And I want them to be self-holding, so might have to work on that a bit. So you want this wire to wind inward towards the nose in order to make that hold and look right, so your loop is acting right. Now for me, I am adding a little wire so I can slide it under his cap. You can see how tiny these are. They're really little, and they can be taken on and off. So what I'm doing is I'm just taking a piece of floral wire, looping it through the circle itself, and I'm just doing it a loose twist so that it will actually swing about. It won't be stiff, and that way I can slide it around. And then I'm just only letting it be so long, maybe an inch or two, just enough so that when I set his glasses on there, I can take and slide the wire right down the edge of his cap, and that way I don't have to worry about it per se falling off. I just want it to slide in there so that the glasses stay on him. If you wanted to keep them on there, you could definitely glue them. So I just want to make sure I can move them or take them off if I decide I don't want them on there. And if you pinch the wire enough, he'll stay across his nose. But I figure with packing him up during the after Christmas and so forth, might be difficult to keep those pent there unless they're tacked into place, and I don't want to have to do that. All right, I worked on his glasses and got them a little bit better, and I tucked them down the side of his cap. That'd be something I can take on or off. And one thing that I found is because I used the googly eyes on him, making his eyeglasses oval and going elongated this way made him look a little bit better and not so starry-eyed, so to speak. So making the glass rims just a little more narrow and sitting downward looked better. So that might be an option for you too, versus making them round, make them oval. And that way they'll elongate his eyes in case you run into the problem with the Google eyes. Now the other thing that we can do for our Santa is we need to decorate his hat so that will counteract that weight and help us to decide if we need to do anything more to gluing his head down. Let's do something out front here. I have my muslin here, making a little name tag. I need to cut just a piece off of this to make him a name tag. Don't need much. This is my roll of muslin that I do. You can take and just cut, use some, snip it and then tear it on both sides to make you a roll of muslin. I use this a lot, so that I'll have that and give it that tattered look going there. A little more ruffled up, give that old-fashioned look. Okay, so it don't look so neat. And then we could maybe put a patch on his hat. I've got all kinds of fabric pieces I can use. Love these little black pieces. That'd look kind of neat. Put that in the background. And then she had stamped him a name on there, so I think I'll just put Santa on there. You could put Kringle or Claus or whatever. I think I'll just put Santa. Be done with that. And I'm just going to use my distressed inks and my little stamp set. And I had gotten this one through Amazon, best I remember. I'll definitely put a link for it so that you can find it as well. And then I can just easily stamp his name on there. I know I got the smaller letters. There we go. We have our Santa. Alright. Put that together. And I'll do a little fabric glue. Put them together. And then decide I want to put him there. So I'm not going to do him a belt buckle. Just going to do him his name. There we go. It looks pretty good. Santa. So I've added some additional patches here on his cap. And I've got his name on there. We've got his bells. Now we need to add some greenery up here. And it won't take a whole lot for him since his hat is where it's at. And I'm just going to stage it a little bit. And that's why I haven't glued this down, is to see what can go up there. And then I've got this little green. I really like that one I've got up there. I don't know that I won't need a whole lot. It's not a lot that can go in this little piece too much. Just needs a mixture. Santa always needs something in his hat. And I think that by adding this greenery over here on this side, it's going to give it a little bit of weight adjustment. So they'll kind of stick up a little bit. Then I still might have to do some gluing in the back to get him situated. That's what we got so far. Got some berries here, or I don't want it to look gaudy, and I can glue them once I get it staged and figure out how many I need. Now Santa is looking fabulous. He is just looking awesome, and we've done a great job in his bell and all. Now his weight is not so bad, but I do want his head to come more forward so that his hat will hang right there beside of him. And so what I figured out is back here in the back, where there's such a dip here, I am going to take and I'm going to make a little pocket here of some stuffing and glue it back here. So I'm just going to match the fabric, and I don't need a whole lot, so I'm going to say somewhere around this much because I can shape it to what I need. Is I'm going to put some polyfill inside of this. I want to glue this together, just create me a little bit of a neck roll per se. I might have to close it up a little bit more, just trying to judge it. So that'll at least hold it together. I'm just going to button up these sides, make a pocket. That way it matches, but no one's going to see the back of him anyway unless he's sitting somewhere, maybe in a room or across the way, because it just needs enough to prop him up per se. But if I glue that back there, no one is going to notice it. It'll just blend in with the rest of him, but it'll be enough to support his neck. So let me see how good that does, if that's going to suit me. And I've just got it stuck right there, and that looks much better because now his hat and him will stay more forward. So by the time I glue that in there, he is going to look pretty snazzy. Just trim that off. Now I have like this little pillow I can put back here. Glue that there. The polyfill will make it more adjustable so that when it's leaned back, but I don't want it to come out of place. Anything to offset his head because his body is holding his weight, and I'm not going to have to put no weight in it. So I'm just going to glue that in this spot right here, and I will go back and put coffee stain on that so that it just blends in. It won't even be noticed. Just barely see it if you're sitting behind. And I added my Dandy Soap box tag to this. I generally put a label on most things that I hand make, and so I can put my handmade stitching back here and my embroidery stitch, but I thought I'd at least put Dandy Soap box. So if you have your own time to stamp out a name for yourself, or even your name and initials, once again, always sign your things, and they will hold through time. You can see that it's just the right adjustment for what I am trying to accomplish. I want his bell to show off. I want the messy bow of his cap to show, and he looks so wonderful, just so grand. So let me show you what he looks like now. And here we have Santa, our primitive Santa Claus. And he just looks great. And as you can see, his weight is just right. And it's not leaning one way or the other. I can darken up all of his white and make it look more darker. But the white is really fine with me. And all, he don't look as old primitive. But over time, as he's used and years go by, he will get more and more seasoned, and he's already stained. He's got his glasses on, and he looks really, really spiffy. And this is what we have. So let me give him a turn. There's the back of him. Once again, you can't even tell, except for if you look real close, I'll stain that. No one will ever know the difference. So I hope you enjoyed making the primitive Santa Claus with me, and make one of your own. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment box down below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Most definitely share it with someone you think would enjoy making the Santa Claus. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Merry Christmas. Until the next DIY, this is Elizabeth. Well, I'll be cracking y'all.